April 27th, 2020. This article was in the New York Post. It was by somebody you may have heard of, Dr. Scott Atlas. And the title is Science Says It's Time to Start Easing the Lockdowns. And even in April, right, mid-April, I think he wrote this the day before, it was published the day before, April 26th, we knew that tens of millions of people had likely already gotten this thing, because we knew back then, and we know now, again, this is fact, 80%-ish of COVID infections are completely asymptomatic. That means zero symptoms. And we also know that it does not spread with zero symptoms. Another 15% of coronavirus infections are mild, right? And that falls into sort of the common cold. You confuse it for allergies, that sort of stuff. Absolutely, that spreads, right? And so education around, hey, there's a pandemic coming through, it might not be allergies, stay inside. Completely valid advice, right? And then the 5% that get really socked by this thing, that's who we have to worry about. Can you imagine if we had actually expended our community energy, right? Our political energy on protecting the people that we knew even at this point who were actually vulnerable to this thing, right? If we had encouraged our seniors and our at-risk people to quarantine, right? To stay inside, to shelter in place. And then we, the rest of us, right? 98% of the other people on the planet, in the earth, in the society, we would go about our lives with basic hygiene. Again, nobody ever said let it rip. Nobody wants to take clothes off and rub together and have a super spreader event on purpose. Be careful, right? Use your brain. Don't go out sick, right? But let the rest of us keep the economy going, and to his point in this article, allow the human body and the collective of human bodies that we have do what our bodies are designed to do. And if you look at every single pandemic that is swept through, right, they all follow the same course. And the wonderful French doctor, Didier Raoult, has pointed this out among others. And this is, once again, the fact that we have ignored history. We threw out the pandemic playbooks. Again, these things sweep through, right? There are vulnerable demographics every time. Sometimes it's kids. This time it happened to be old people and immunocompromised people. Once you identify who those people are, use the community energy to protect them. Stay inside. We will start a national GoFundMe for your 4 months of Netflix. We will help you with your Grubhubs. We will help you stay inside while the rest of us kind of weather this thing. We have great medical care. We easily flattened the curve in early April, and we could have handled this. But instead, we decided to freak out and politicize this thing, and shame on us. And Scott Atlas, man, thank you, because you were right. Also, on April 27th, a year ago, we had this piece in the New York Post from a doctor in St. Barnabas in the Bronx. I've worked the coronavirus front line, and I say it's time to start opening up. What's interesting here, well, so first of all, what's great here is that this doctor had the courage to come out and speak up in this maelstrom, in this whirlwind of, to see, this like bucket of crabs of people, to see who could tell the worst horror story, right? And interestingly, and I don't normally do this, and I'm not going to name names, but I have an acquaintance who actually worked at this hospital. The previous week to this, went on national television and claimed that they were awash in blood and death and despair, and there were bodies dropping like flies in the hallways at this hospital, and it was a war zone. And because I know a lot of people, honestly, in the New York medical community, I reached out to my contact about this, who works there at this hospital as well. And they were like, what now? There's nobody dropping like flies in our hospital. We're not even tapped out with ICUs. Like what? Needless to say, they were not happy with this other person going on national television and creating panic and unfounded fear out of selfish self-promotional reasons. And of course, maybe there's a little bit of a noble lie baked in there. Again, if we scare people enough, maybe they'll do what we say. But just because you mean well does not mean you can do that. Just because you think that if you scare enough people, they will do what you think is right, that is not an equation that adds up. That doesn't track. That's not okay. We don't do that. We don't do that. You can go on and say, hey, we're running low on some PPE here, and people are getting a little nervous, and we're seeing, we're getting up into the mid-high 90s on our ICU. Never mind that they're in the high 80s and 90s and low to mid 90s anyway on ICU capacity. You know anything about how hospitals are run. But you can be honest and still, if your opinion is, we're very concerned about this, my medical opinion is that everybody needs to stay inside, don't go outside for 3 months or whatever, make that case. But don't lie about it. And what we saw in New York at this time was a lot of lying. When we weren't seeing TikTok videos, we were seeing a lot of lying. Oh my God. And look where that gets us. Good job, everybody.